So, BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, and I am begging for this video to be out before 10:30 because I really think that the earlier in the night, the more eyes and thoughts will be on this. The past two videos I've talked about Kamen Rider and Kamen Rider Gotchard's new upcoming novel being a story arc that's basically going to be pulling from this hypothetical season 2. Then the fact Japanese fans decided to create their own delusions, imaginations, and thoughts about episodes they think would happen if Gotchard did have this real 50-episode second season. And while some of it was definitely trolling, all of it wasn't good fun, especially since towards the people who love and hate Kamen Rider Gotchard, there's a lot of potential in the world for a second season, and it's one of the seasons people talk about for getting a sequel installment either as a manga or an anime like Futopi. So the question becomes, well, why don't you come up with some ideas? See, that's the problem, guys. I'm all willing to do that, but coming up with the premise for an entire series with new elements, twists and turns, and developments isn't easy. Kamen Rider does it all the time, every year, and people who don't know how to be constructively critical on Rider will tear someone's favorite season to shreds, even if it really wasn't that bad, but just had some flaws that could have had some fixing. And given how hard it is to put out content, I don't think I'd be able to pull that off. However, I think a compromise would be to make some episode ideas of what I think could happen. We know this is a novel set, I believe, a year after graduations, and given Renee's Adventures with Girls remix, there's a lot we can pull from with Gotchard's main series and the side concepts to afford some episodes that would fit in Gotchard's world and play on its strengths. I also want you all to make some of your own ideas in the comments. The English-speaking fandom has had a few people involved compared to the Japanese, and yes, Hotorene moments obviously are going to be involved, but if the Japanese fans can go all out, so can we. If you made it this far, type Gotcha and go for Season 2, and let's get started. Now, I spent the day going through the list of chemis to find every possible combination Gotchard and Jade could do. Valvride, I can believe, can use any number of the same combo as long as it's a vehicle and a cult combo, which may have cost time I could have spent working on the video, but I do think in general, either through wild forms, normal forms, Jade's other forms of Valvride, I would think having episodes around having these new forms and improving the bonds with some of the chemis with certain characters could actually make things a lot better if they were to have a proper Season 2. But for anyone who wants my thoughts on what some of the conflicts could be outside of Fractal, I do think there's a lot you could do with potential alchemists of some of the villains. For starters, an interesting aspect I like in Boruto's first anime arc and in Denbo Senki, aka LBX, was the idea that after regime change, the leader of a society decides to kick out the potential traitors, loyalists, or sympathizers to a member of the supported allies who did nebulous actions to the people that they were supposed to protect. Think of how in LBX, one of the villains was in the Big Goods company and manipulated the death of one of the Big Goods, forcing his brother into the position and firing him and any senior executives and potential traitors. Also how in Naruto removed Root's loyalists to Danzo, but that resulted in Tsuru's father abusing her to become a tool against the village. For Gotchard, we've seen people like Licht, Shiori, and from what I've researched in the Lacus spin-off, DuPont Dogami, all of whom use the association either for revenge, gaining forbidding alchemy, or using it for wicked experiments against innocent people. And even in the final stage, Gleon possessed an alchemist executive who I was told was a Gleon loyalist. One of the groups of antagonists you can do is have some of the alchemists who either don't agree with Hotaro, Minato, and now Spanner's reign, they either fled when the academy got exposed or were removed for blindly supporting Gleon, or still believing in excommunicating Fuga and seek revenge now that their power was taken from them. What, you guys don't think there could be evil human antagonist alchemists abusing their authority to put people on ice? Man, try saying that 5 times in a row. But the Dread Driver. Now, the Dread Driver technically disappeared after Kloto died fighting Gleon, but it disappeared. It was never fully destroyed. Plus, Gleon was able to make the Dread Troopers by making multiple copies of Dread Troopers that could transform themselves. So I think that having some alchemists or new antagonists find the Dread Driver and not only use it effectively, but also make more replica chemis for some of the chemis that never got dark versions would be pretty effective. Though to make them more of a threat, I would say the villains should use remnants of the El Dragon Dorado Gleon made to weaken Nijigon and strengthen the replica chemis, and then use those replica chemis to make even more dangerous amalgams. So the alchemists would have to use the Philosopher's Stone power in each of the chemis to defeat their dark counterparts and restore Nijigon. I think I can make a pretty good plot line on its own, but getting to some of those episode ideas, I do want to use what the show finished and established with, but also flesh out those details to show what everyone's been up to since then. For example, the memory plotline ended up with the heroes not bothering to wipe people's memories since people kind of just forgot about the chemis, but since Hotaro wants to have the chemis accepted, he and the heroes can work with some of the people they've helped out to do so. Hey, I have not watched the Future Daybreak movie yet, and I plan to, but one idea I did hear was using some of the future characters. I forgot to include it in the video, but some Japanese fans have suggested that Hotaro would meet the present versions of the two allies, Tetsuo Tajima, who was an alchemist in the future, and have him start amateurish, but have Hotaro work with him and help us find his own understanding of alchemy like what he did with cooking. Another idea is to use the other future Daybreak character, Ichika Sakaki. From what I researched, her father was abducted and she joined a raid on Leon's castle to free him. And since Rene also has a dad she kind of had to save, an idea I had was that in the present, Ichika's father is one of the main people going missing, and with Rene returning from her studies in England, Rene decides to help her find her father. So with help from Renge, Senna, and yes, even Nayuta, and maybe Hijiri, Rene leads her own branch of friends as a quasi-girls remix to figure out if someone's using a replicami to target people's parents for like a 2-part arc. It'd be cool for Rene to not only lead, but just also borrow and use some cards to help out. And picking some thematic cards, like letting the battery Kemi Red Engie help Hijiri when it had possessed her in the past, Renge using the same card she used in her focus episode, or Rene using the Kraken and Mammoth cards she had to fight to save Senna from in order to help protect her now. Speaking of Hijiri, there's another aspect from the finale I think we should get more fleshed out on. See, Kajiki and Hijiri are a couple basically, but Hijiri had lost her job. Well, Kajiki and Hijiri bonded over the supernatural phenomenon that they had met as a child and posted letters to the same magazine. So I think something that the season 2 could do is have Hijiri and Kajiki work with Sawa and Yuzu, the daughter and father who dealt with X-Rex, and have it that they started their own magazine researching and debunking or proving myths, supernatural incidents, and whether or not the Kemis were the cause of those incidents, and Spanner and Rene would occasionally bump into them for advice. Heck, since Hijiri left the Toei studio park in Kyoto, we could have an episode where the cast members are under attack and her and Kachiki recruit Hotaro, Spanner, and Rene to help them figure out what, or rather who in the cast is responsible. And either of those two opportunities are perfect to use a card I've been wishing we could see be used in the show more in Say Zombie, since it was only used as part of the Arc 1 amalgam and would fit with Rene's love for Ghost if she at least got to use it. Okay, another fun idea I had was to play on the fact that some of the amalgams were made from criminals. The Skateboard, Poison Salaryman, Mamoru Submarine Stalker, Goriki Gorilla, and Hijiri's brother all went to jail for their actions. And I believe one of them, Goriki, returned. So here's an idea. Amalgam is draining or sneaking into the prison and draining them or turning them into amalgams against their will. So Spanner and Rene have to investigate the prison to find out who it is. Because it gives Spanner an opportunity to actually do some more investigative work like he said he was going to do in the first arc. And also because Rene needs an opportunity to punch the ever-living crap out of Mamoru, the guy who we know is so vile he would prey on, stalk, and kill the girls that he was after. Give Rene Mercury Poseidon to take on his submarine amalgam, and you could reveal that the culprit is an abusive warden who doesn't believe in rehabilitation and is basically using the jail as a profit prison, blocking Hijiri's brother's attempts to reform and target some people who clearly didn't belong in the prison system to begin with. You guys forgot, Hasegawa wrote some of Gotchard, and he did not pull his punches having the amalgams represent some of the worst aspects of human society. Okay. Another episode idea would be to play off what happened in the beginning of episode 6. For those of you who don't remember, Lacus has tried to fuse Burning Nero with an angry woman who was dumped by her boyfriend by enticing her with the prospect of revenge. But Spanner caught it, blasted his future girlfriend out of the room, and told the woman that vengeance is not a virtue. My idea is to make an episode for season 2 to build off that. Let's say a string of women have been becoming amalgams, and when the heroes arrive to defeat them, another amalgam has been defeating them and stealing the replicami responsible, so they can't be stopped. The women are arrested since the public thinks that there's a conspiracy, since all of them were women who are going to get married, only for the heroes to find out why. The real culprit is that there's a duo of humans who are using 2 replicamis that are working together to start marriage scams to rob the women out of their money, then turn them into amalgams and fabricate evidence to make it seem like the women were crazy, when in reality, they were using the carnage to wipe out the banks and any evidence of their crimes and fraud. And one transforms into the monster to steal the second Kemi before the heroes can get there. That way, in order to stop them, the heroes use Renge as Miss 4 first love with Sabimaru's technology, and some of the job Kemis as a honey trap to expose them and stop more women from being scammed. Too much? Well, apparently there's a rising amount of romance scams as of late going on in the real world, and if you know me, you know I don't mess around when it comes to romance. Okay. This script is almost about 2,000 words long, so I think I'm gonna end it here. Trust me, I can keep going, but I think it's best I refresh my Red Engies, get out what I have, and cook up some more ideas when I wake up in the morning. I could keep going because I want to talk about more episode ideas, especially for certain Kemis, Rene, Sabimaru, including the sisters and how it revived them, Minato, Fuga, Renge, Zukyu Empire, a few more Kemis, Gleon, and much, much more. But for now, I want you all to put some of your thoughts in the comments and any ideas you might have. All right, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. My Kamen Rider videos do not do that well, so any support, even just sharing these videos, are a big help. Anyway, expect more ideas tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, signing off.